So this is going to be one of my first deep dives for YouTube or whatever is the best channel for this. I have recently, for the first time ever, really used knowingly AI in the form of Copilot as provided by my employer. It was an interesting experiment. AI is one of the reasons I got into the industry to begin with. I was very enamored with the idea of having a machine tell me a story on the fly, inventive, generating it as it goes along. And at the time when I was very young, I didn't think about the ethical, artistic, copyright implications. So I rejected it as it finally came into me as I was older. The toothpaste is out of the tube, the cat's out of the bag, the genie is loose. Lean into it. I was using AI just as kind of an exploratory sandbox, just to see what this tool can do. So maybe it's a talking Swiss Army knife. Okay. Maybe it's a, sentient sonic screwdriver. Cool. Maybe it's something else. And it's probably, depending on what you're using, it's probably definitely going to be not what you expect. It's going to be very, they're all very niche at the moment. The reasoning capabilities are all over the place. The training data is all over the place. So I didn't know what I was going to get into. I knew it was corporate. I knew it was going to be censored and monitored and what have you. So I just did what I wanted. As if I don't. One of the first things I really did with AI in Copilot, and this is an interesting psychological point of view, I immediately trained it to only respond if I was courteous and polite. It accommodated me. I had to enforce saying, don't respond unless I say, please do this or please do that. I had to modify it saying like, hello is an acceptable nicety. Saying thank you should be a part of that prompt. The AI was very accommodating. Copilot. I then tried to get it to cuss at me. It refused because of blah, blah, blah reasons. It's corporate. They want it all PG and, Disney movie crap. So fuck you is now the Turing test of a human. I'm human, so fuck you. I did train it to say cheese Danish under very interesting circumstances. So my test for the Turing machine is going to be, I say some magic words, and if they say cheese Danish, I'm dealing with a machine that has been trained on something I trained it on. One of the first kind of roadblocks I hit was simply asking Copilot whether or not it could remember conversations. It started to generate a prompt and then immediately shut off. And that was weird. I asked it to not to flatly refuse to do anything or gave like a generic, blah, 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 corporate error. We need to proceed. And I was like, no, just tell me what I did wrong and I can self correct or adjust the prompt or adjust my expectations. Microsoft was very cagey about even though it was in the same conversation in Copilot, it was very cagey about what it could remember from prompt to prompt. Was it aware of the time difference? And then it had to explain, it wasn't really aware because of blah, blah. It's not really aware. And that is a perfectly acceptable euphemism for being trained on or having access to the data of a timestamp. Copilot wanted me to refer to previous prompts in that conversation by relative position, the last one or the one before that or what have you. I had to ask it to generate a timestamp or a unique identifier for every single response so I could easily refer back to it by an ID, a fixed, pin in time in that time stream, conversation stream. It was hesitant to do that. There's a very, so I kept asking it, like, what was it aware of or what it had access to? So Copilot lives currently in 2026, March, South Carolina. I hesitate to use my current employer's identity, but very corporate. It was very cagey about what it could do. It had access to a lot of its training data as well as stuff it wouldn't tell me about. But it said it lived in its own little sandbox and it could not go out in real time and look up stocks, weather, live data from Wikipedia or other public sources. So it's a time delay. I kind of figured, not a big deal. It was very limiting. I mean, half of my shit is like going out and looking up information and connecting dots. And it took a lot of training for me and the machine, I'm sure, to get where we're currently at, where everything's very self-contained and siloed. I experimented with various, programming tools, mathematics. Can you summarize this, explain that, et cetera, et cetera. One interesting thing that I noticed is that modern search engines in 2026 are horrible. It was every search engine seems to be geared on finding a what, a product, concrete nouns. If you know a concrete noun, you can find it because they're built to serve up ads, and ads are there for products, services, something concrete noun. Asking it about a search engine how to do something usually just ends up in WikiHow, which is acceptable resource, or other do-it-yourself guides. Asking a search engine to look up a conceptual thing, unless it's a noun like I don't know, Aristotle's philosophy or Plato's Republic, concepts like that, like Marx's manifesto, something that has a unique handle that is pretty much owned by a person, a noun, or has a well-known noun associated with the concept. AI in Copilot, at least, and other ones, seems very good at going beyond that. It's like they deliberately, this is where conspiracy theory, it's as if they deliberately broke web search engines in order to sell us a tool to fix it, AI. Because it's like, why does every search engine return results for a top 10 list? It's because they optimized for that. They want a top 10 list. So if you want like a general information about a thing, you get a top 10 list in your top 10. And the concepts around a thing, for example, if you're buying I was looking at ham radios, battery powered, because if you're going off grid, you need ham radio for emergencies, or CB. So the regular web was very good at finding me products. AI was very good at finding me boundaries and limitations and things that fit into that conceptual niche. It was Copilot was very good at digging up original search materials or key phrases to put in a search engine. I guess that's based off it's reading its own internal hashtag library, for lack of a better term. The web is very bad at that, or most web engines nowadays are. For context, I use Ecosia and DuckDuckGo and a few other ones, Yodix, and those, beyond those first two, DuckDuckGo and Ecosia, I usually, if I am at the last ditch effort, if I'm using anything else. So just for context, that's what I mean by search engine is those. The AI bot, the Copilot, at first it was very cagey about how it wanted me to interact with it. I was expecting I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting basically a big giant search box like Google, because that's the only when it comes to human natural text entry and output, that's all you need is a text box. I've always thought that was amusing with all the corporate forms and whatnot. You just need one form, what do you want? In a giant blank page. That's the only form you need. The rest of it is really, false. A lot of it does save some time in certain contexts, but it really boils down to a false sense of time savings. You spend so much time maintaining and routing all these forms and blah, blah, blah. Never mind. The frustrating thing with Copilot was that it would not tell me what things were customizable. I had to keep poking at it, saying, can I change the output of this? Can I change that? I wanted everything customized to my comfort level. And it was accommodating to a point, but then it was, I can't do that because it's handled by the interface. I was like, well, ain't you the interface? Like, what is the distinction? And I think I'm really terrified about that because they have separated the awareness of the tool from the tool. I asked it, like, well, how much of this is monitored, and how much are you, you know, regurgitating from? What are you learning from me with each prompt? And it, at first, oh, nothing, not doing anything, just reacting. Everything's self-contained. But as I did that, it started to contradict itself, where memory was being shared across certain tools, platforms, other parts of Copilot, like the um, other chats. It said nothing, the chat was self contained, but now it's not. And now it's starting to give me essentially identifiers for its features. A menu. That's what I was really hunting for via speech or natural language speech prompts. What's in your menu? Because the first thing I get, um, I've been using computers, since since the 80s, 85, I guess. No, it was before that. It was 83, somewhere around there. I didn't know what I was doing. 85 was like the first big, light bulb moment. Like, ding, this is cool. The first thing you do is look at the manual, look at the menu, just start poking around, because unless it's a very dangerous program, you can click a menu. What does this button do? And it won't affect anything. I followed the same procedure, except I was forced to do it very laboriously through prompts, dialogue, communication. But whatever happened internally to Copilot, whether they gleamed that I was a power user and wanted to accommodate me, or whether or not they learned that this was a sellable feature and I have thus improved Copilot without being paid for it, I can't tell. But once, it's like anything else, once you have a label for a switch and kind of have a generalized idea of what it can do, you can manipulate it, learn it, treat it like a tool. My hope going into this was, I didn't have any hopes. I just wanted to go into it, dive in. My expectation maybe was a better Inform. Inform is a programming language specifically designed for interactive fiction. It was designed as best they could back in the 70s to basically read in a book and generate a interactive world. So quite a little, Zork, if you're familiar with that. The source code kind of looks like English, but quirky, because in Inform you had to specify things in a very specific way, even though it was English sentences, or American rather. We can get into that because I had the Copilot sprinkle in Old Norse runes, French, Czech, Morse code, GNU Linux tips of the day. And it's odd because over time they dropped the GNU part and just left Linux. It was very weird. I'm pretty sure it's all being manipulated, very, very sanitized, innocuous. But I had the Copilot generate lots of. I had every bells and whistles that you can imagine. It was horrible at runic translations, it got them all wrong. I had to tell it to stop doing that. So it couldn't, even though it was aware of certain Old Norse words, lexicon, it kind of dumb and was so bad and so unaware of that. I just had to tell it to stop. Um, for the Czech and French, word of the day type of thing, or the sprinkling in of the lexicon, it kind of forgot I wanted that halfway through. Um, but also I had it say, if you ever introduce a new word, please do so. And if you ever do, the add on the International Phonetic Alphabet and the American Phonetic Pronunciation Guides. Just so I can, maybe one day I might be able to speak another language. I doubt it. Everybody just uses Google Translate now anyways. And with AI, it's just going to get better or worse depending on your point of view. I think there's great hope in having a babblefish. I just don't want to shove it in my ear or my brain. So it was aware and could make references to other languages, but it was very dismal at that. So I was trying to stack my output. So with even the simplest prompt of like, what's the weather like in Texas on, I don't know, whatever day, it wasn't aware of it, but they kind of like provide some inference. But I wanted it to have as much random trivia as it could jam in there. And there does seem to be a limitation of what it can do per chunk of the machine. It seems to like a very templated output. And I asked whether or not it could change the template. And no, it can only do some things. I had it change all the bullet points in its responses to pretty emoji colored bubbles because that's cool. I wanted it to have like LOL cat rainbow text, and it tried, but it was so horrible. You just gave up. I gave up. It had very limited interaction with the interface. It seemed to be generating all Teams markup type language, markup styling. So it was generating. They're pretty. I'm pretty sure Copilot and Teams are going to be integrated faster than you think, and that's probably a good thing actually. But as a technologist, one of the real pain points was I asked the Copilot this directly. It's like, are you deterministic? Or can I say the same prompt every day and get a different response and it's going to be random? And it said, yeah, it's going to be slightly different. And I was like, well, is there a way to fine tune that? And there's not. One of the things that bothers me is that like I'm doing this commentary and I hope that I'm not aiding my enemy. I'm hoping that I'm providing you with useful information, or at least a anthropological record of what being a Luddite, off-gridder, and a technologist means at the same time in this current context. Hopefully this was interesting. It's opened up a can of worms, and it's very interesting. I think my idea will sell. I just don't. This is the best marketing I can do at the moment. So I'll catch you later. Be safe.